Sing that so you're gonna come and walk into your feels. When God's gonna bless those who have said, those who have prayed, He's gonna fulfill promise He. For I heard the Spirit say, "Yes, you walk your sin." Into your sea, walk into your. Good evening, everybody. Saw a few people. What's going on? Let's see. The sound is still going. Okay. Okay, I think I got that fixed. So we're gonna get rolling. I earlier today I was reading the book of Nehemiah, and I was really moved. I actually earlier this week, another brother that's a part of the Shift community, I saw him teaching, and I was moved to say, "Man, watching you up there, it made me want to put together a lesson." So we have. So let's pray, and then we're gonna go right into it because we may need the whole hour. I think this is gonna be really good. So before I do pray, I want to ask you to just make sure you have a clear mind and a clear heart. Um, Whatever it is you bring to this moment and this time, that's what you'll get out of it. I'm just here to deliver a message. I just have a few words to say. My prayer is that whatever it is that you and the God you serve are needing to, whatever you're needing to hear, I pray that God would use me and speak through me to perhaps help you as it relates to your vision, because vision is so very important. Before we do that, I'm going to go to the throne of grace with prayer, and then we're going to dive right into it. Father God, I thank you so much for the opportunity to share a few words of encouragement with a few people. I pray and ask that anyone, those that need to hear the word, that they would be here to hear it. I pray and ask that people would have ears to hear and eyes to see. We need you. We need you in this season. Things are constantly moving at a fast pace, and people are constantly just needing to hear from you in different avenues of their life, whether it be sickness or new territories or business ideas. But we thank you for the visions that are there and the visions that maybe we don't see. We just need to look in a different place to understand that what we need has always been there, but maybe we weren't looking for it properly. So, Father, I pray and ask that you would keep the internet strong, you would keep my words clear, and you would keep hearts open to what it is you would like us to hear tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. So, again, let's dive right into this building your vision, lessons from Nehemiah. Like I mentioned, I read the entire book of Nehemiah this morning, and I think it's like 13 chapters. And so I had gotten to, I think it was chapter 10. And I looked and I said, well, man, how many chapters is it? Because I wasn't sure if I was going to finish, but sure enough, just like Nehemiah finished rebuilding that wall in Jerusalem, I did finish the chapter. And once I did, I decided that I wanted to put together a lesson that I could share with our community. And so, for those of you that are not familiar with the story of Nehemiah, so he rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem. It doesn't say why the walls have been knocked down. It doesn't really give a lot of details about the situation, but we know that Nehemiah is a cupbearer for the king. So that means that anytime the king was brought a meal or anytime it was brought something to drink, Nehemiah, as a cupbearer, was in charge of tasting it first to make sure that no one was trying to poison the king or nothing would happen to him. So that means that Nehemiah had to be a man of some kind of stature. He had to be trustworthy. He had to be a man that had a clear heart to be that close to the king. And so the way the story goes, it says that the king saw or felt uh, sadness in Nehemiah's heart, and he asked him what was wrong. And Nehemiah told him that he had a vision. He had a vision to rebuild the walls of Jericho. Those walls of Jericho, not Jericho, but Jerusalem. And so the walls of Jerusalem, having been knocked down, left the people without security. It left them open to all type of exposures. And so we learned from the book of Nehemiah that he goes in and he strategically in 52 days through his leadership and his vision is able to rebuild the wall. So as I ask God to speak through me, I want to go through some key points that I saw, and I hope they might be reflected in your life. And so that's just the background, this story of Nehemiah. I do encourage you to find, whether it be Nehemiah or whether it be another key person in the Bible that can maybe parallel your life story. But for today, the story of Nehemiah resonated very well with me. And so we're going to take a journey into the timeless wisdom of Nehemiah's leadership and its relevance to the Shift community's aspiration. Because many of us that are part of the Shift community, we have to realize that what we're building, it's not just about what your business does, but it's so much more than that. It's so many people, places, and things that will be healed, both physically, spiritually, and mentally from the work that we do. And so we want to take a look at some of the things that Nehemiah did to help us. And those three main ingredients are vision, as I mentioned, resilience, and completion. And so those are the three main areas that we want to dive into: vision, resilience, and completion. Those are the three main ingredients for what we want to think about tonight. And I hope you already can see yourself in that. I hope you can already develop a level of understanding for where you want to go and where you need to go. Just looking at those three key points, we could stop right there at vision, resilience, and completion. So again, I pray that you have come with an open heart, with an open mind, not about Ethan, not about Shift, but about you and whatever it is that you are seeking in your life. It's the third quarter, and one thing that's been happening is that as I check in with people daily and weekly, some people have family members that are ill. Some people have grandmothers that are on their deathbed. Some people are making negatives in their business. Some people are going through transitions, and so I know that there is a great force in the land, and I also know that, like we used to say and Morehouse, that the world is equally balanced between good and bad. And so our next move will tilt the scale. So we want to make sure that we're not that we're being open to doing bringing goodwill into the earth, because we know evil is always present. So let's do goodwill in the earth. So part one is vision, the blueprint for your transformation, what it is that you're seeing right now. So we know that when God gives you a vision, he doesn't always reveal the plan for the vision. He just gives you the end of the thing. So he'll let you see where you're going. But if he revealed to you the plan at the same time, most of us probably would say, well, no, you know what, God, I'm gonna pass on that because I didn't realize I would have to go through this heartache. I didn't realize that I would be talked about. I didn't realize that the lights would go out for 12 hours. I didn't realize that I would have to make so many adjustments. So part one is when you receive the vision from God, the assignment, and he shows you where you're going. But we know all of us are adults here, so we know that there's a transformative process, but that vision is our blueprint. We know a blueprint, uh, if you follow it, you can build a skyscraper that goes up to 150 stories high. If you follow the blueprint, you can use GPS to get from one point to the next. If you follow the blueprint, we know that it opens doors for us to get where we need to go. So this transformative state that we have to go through when we first get a vision from God. And so we know our vision is what we call a North Star. Let's call it a North Star. And somebody might say, well, Ethan, what is a North Star? Would you explain it? So a North Star, the way I understand it, it's a point in the sky that seemingly it never moves. The North Star, no matter the earth is spinning on its axis, no matter where you are, the North Star is in the same place. So that's no matter what happens, it's something that does not change. Your vision is something that does not change. It guides you through the transformative journey. It helps with your decision making. It helps whenever you face adversity. So let's think about this vision as our North Star. And if you're in the room, if you would mute yourself, I just want to make sure everybody's muted. Let me even do this since I've had to stop. I'm going to make Mike a co-host, make Rena a co-host. So if you all would, when you see people, when it says someone is trying to come in, if you would let them in so I don't have to stop and do that. And please, by all means, mute your mic 100% of the time. With that being said, we first look at Proverbs. So we just want to start with a basic understanding. Proverbs 29:18 says that where there is no vision, right? Where there's no vision, people are unrestrained. And so that's part of the reason why we see so much chaos in the world. We see so many things that are not in alignment with how they should be because we don't have vision. People are not having something bigger than them to go for. So we know that the vision is what anchors us. And so that's why it's so important with shift and this idea of this shift approach. We try to make sure people have some sort of vision because we don't promise you that anything will happen. All we do is say, at least we got a chance. At least we have a chance. We also know that without guidance from God, law and order will disappear. But God blesses everyone who obeys his laws. God gives us this vision. He gives us ideas to ground us because otherwise, this earth and our time here is so fleeting, right? We're all going to the dirt at some point in the future. We're all going back to the dirt from whence we came. So it's very important that we give ourselves something that's larger than us, something that has some real meaning to allow us to be able to have something to be grounded in. Otherwise, there are no restraints. And we see that all around us. We see young people, we see old people. They say that a fool gets to be young one time. But sometimes some folks they act foolish all their lives because they never had a vision which would give them something to pursue. So as we look at Nehemiah's vision was to rebuild Jerusalem's wall against daunting odds. Again, all of the walls that protected the people of Jerusalem were down. And we don't know, again, when we come into the story, we don't know why the walls have been knocked down. But we do know that there were incredible odds. There were naysayers that didn't believe in Nehemiah's vision. We know that there were people that he had to get so many resources. He had to bring people together, just like probably something that you might have in your heart. When you have the thing about a vision, the thing about an idea of what's possible, the thing about where you would want to go, if you can elevate to that point in life, is that you always have to do it with someone else. You always have to bring people together. So Nehemiah faced a great tall task of bringing together the resources. And again, remember, he did this in 52 days. So if we compare Nehemiah's vision with Ship's commitment to transforming lives and enterprises, so we think about Nehemiah needed to restore walls around an entire city. And so when I think about some of the things that I see when I'm checking in with people on a daily basis, and we think about some of the hindrances in people's lives, whether it be financial, whether it be just for people, the way you were raised and not having enough strength to move away from it, it's very comparative in the way we have to transform our lives. Because I meet so many people that come through our program and and to be quite frank, many times I've seen in the past 2 years, someone might see or attach themselves to this idea of knowing an American, and you think that you've come to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But it's very important, just like with Nehemiah, we understand that there are still very many transformative things that must happen. And I think the key word here is commitment. So that's the idea of the vision, the idea of being committed. So let's go into part two. We've identified the vision and the importance of it and our North Star. So now we have to think about some of the distractions and how we're able to stay the course. And so that is clearly rooted in the idea of focusing. The Bible tells us that every time I have the desire to do good, that evil is always present. Evil is always present. When we get to, as we ease down the road through Nehemiah's story of rebuilding the walls, there's a time around the 5th chapter going into the 6th where it was said that someone said, Nehemiah is probably rebuilding that wall so that he can gain in popularity, so he can gain in strength. And Nehemiah is probably trying to overtake the king. Nehemiah is doing this for his own personal gain. He doesn't have the people's best interest in mind. Nehemiah is seeking to rebuild this wall because he's power hungry. So stories had began to come up amongst the people. They were making up ideas in their head. And so a group of men went to Nehemiah, and Nehemiah was literally up on the wall building, right? He didn't just send people to do the work. He was hands-on doing the work himself. And so they come to Nehemiah and say, Nehemiah, we want to take you to the king. There's stories that say you have ulterior motives. And so in Nehemiah verse 6 and 3, he says, I am doing a great work. I cannot come down. So I don't know who all's out there, but I want to say this about that. It says, I'm going to say, I am doing a great work. I cannot come down. We are often, when we have a vision, many times people hate to see you fulfilling your vision because it does a couple of things. One, it demands of them to do more, or they might feel smaller. But when we look at what Nehemiah said here, it's two different ways to view this. One, in the physical. So Nehemiah was literally on the ladder helping to build the wall. So he physically is saying, listen, my hands are full. I cannot come down. I can't climb down from the ladder. But then there's also a spiritual and a more relevant meaning there that I hear, by where as you're being elevated, going through your transformation, becoming the person you need to be to fulfill your call, spiritually, your vibrations are different. The things you like are different. So you spiritually cannot come down because you're doing a great work. Things change on the inside of you. So let's remember that. I had a relative the other day, and she means very well. I don't mean any harm, but this is a good example. She was telling me about a vision she had for me, and it was the way I interpreted it, the way I heard it. It would have meant that I was coming down from this great work that I'm doing. So my point is, I had to overlook that. And I've had to overlook several things on this journey. And I want to remind you, as you go toward where you're being destined and being called to by this perfect plan God has for your life, you cannot come down because you're doing a great work. Nehemiah faced challenges. He had to strategically plan not only how to get supplies, not only how to manage the money that he was being given to do the work, he had to also manage the naysayers and the people that were telling him what he could not do, the people that could not see his vision. I would imagine if you're anything like Nehemiah, you understand sometimes that which that is inside of you, you have a hard time verbalizing. It's not easy to say what you see that's inside of you because you know yourself by what's in your head. People know you by what you do. You know yourself by what's in your head, in your mind, where you think. People know you by what you do. And sometimes when you're fulfilling a vision, you're not doing the things that people think align with what you should be doing. So Nehemiah faced many of these challenges because, as you can imagine, people are thinking, this wall, the wall is torn down. It's broken and battered. What is this man thinking? So Nehemiah had to be tempted time after time after time again to think, what am I doing? Is this a foolish act that I've taken up? So we look and we think about the way Jesus was tempted. We think about, we can look in Matthew 4, 1 through 11. And just the first verse, it says, then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And so we know when Jesus was tempted, he was taken to, what's happening here? He was taken to the highest point of the mountain as he was tempted, it said, bow down to me and I will give you all that you want. So I would imagine some of us on the call, we know some people that if you were offered, even everybody that can hear me now, if you were offered and they said, listen, tomorrow, I can assure you for the rest of your life, you'll have nice cars. You'll be able to dress in the finest designer clothes. You'll be able to travel the world and you'll be able to fulfill any fantasy that you have on this earth. The only thing you have to do is you no longer can pursue any vision that you have. You can't, seek, you don't necessarily, you don't have to pray anymore. So I think in the book of Mark, it says, for what does it profit a man or a woman to gain the whole world but sell your soul? And so I think many times as we're tempted, sometimes we see something that looks better right now, but we have to be reminded of the power of unwavering purpose, the power of unwavering purpose. We cannot waver in our purpose. And so essentially in what we teach at Shift and some of the things that we think about, we try to help navigate through certain distractions and obstacles. We make sure we start with the S and we help you think about the financials that go into your idea or into your personal plan. And we try to make sure you remember those people, family, and we remember the ideals of servant leadership. We remember how important it is to plan when we think about the I. And then, of course, we know that even though we have a plan, we have to deal with perseverance with the F. So what we try our best to do is prepare people for the obstacles and the distractions, very similar to what I think Nehemiah may have been the first man ever to use the shift approach. Nehemiah may have very, very well, and today, matter of fact, August the 9th, 2023, Nehemiah was the first man ever to use the shift approach. So let's go into part 3, and part 3 is about your strategy. Constructing with purpose and planning. And so again, we're talking about vision. We're looking at some ideas around how Nehemiah used his vision to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. And so when we think about constructing something, whether it be a business idea or a relationship or something you're dealing with, if you look around, even in the room you're in now, look at the perfect crevices on the wall. Look at the evenness of the ceiling. Look at the rails on the door, the way the door handles work. Construction and building something takes a great deal of planning. And it's the same way when you think about whatever it is your vision is and how you're moving. And this is what Nehemiah faced. He had to, and thinking about our business, right? So in our planning, there's 3 main points of business. And those points of business are you have to have some sort of financial plan. You have to have some sort of financial budget. And Nehemiah had that. Nehemiah had that. It says in the book of Nehemiah that he got money from certain people, and he had to allocate it for the timber wood that was brought in from far and wide. The king endorsed it, so he had a budget. The second thing was marketing in your business and your ideas and with your vision. There has to be a way that you can explain what you're doing. So marketing is another big part of modern day business planning. How do you get things out of your heart into people's ears? And then the third part, if finance and marketing are important, operations and administration. And that's a very, very important part. So how do we, what happens on a day-to-day basis? Who's in charge of what? What day do we get paid? When will we, what organizations will we join? And so I've been learning and growing through that with Shift and understanding. It was really promising this morning when I read Nehemiah to see some of the strategic planning principles that he put into place to make his vision come through. And so, but one thing that we understand is that it's one thing to have the vision and then make the plans that include budgeting and marketing and our administration. But one of the important part that we have to always remember is that we have to first commit to the Lord, whatever we do, and he will establish your plans. Whatever that vision is, whatever the plan is, because again, God gives us the vision. He gives us an idea, something, some end point that we can get to. And then the Bible says that man makes the plans, or woman, man makes the plans. So we start with a divine idea, a divine outcome. And then, and that comes from a space of infinity. It comes from God's perfect plan. So that's infinity. The vision is something that comes just out of the spiritual realm. But the planning process that we go through is, that part is something that we have to then take back to God. We have to take that back to God, and he will establish our plan. So it says, commit your work to the Lord, submit to him, and to submit to him, and your plans will succeed. So let's always remember to take our vision back to God. And so Nehemiah had a deliberate way of doing that, of gathering the resources and rallying support. He was a champion at the way he took his vision to God, and in doing that, he was able to overcome so many of the things that otherwise would have derailed him. And so I want to keep moving with this. We may need the whole hour, so just bear with me. We are recording this, so if anyone has to step away, it's fine. It's being live streamed on our YouTube channel, so it'll be recorded. But I want to make sure we labor this to a point where these points of Nehemiah are able to come through. So we may need the entire hour, but we're going to keep on pushing. I think we're a bit halfway through. So when we think about strategic planning and how it amplifies our impact, I think that it's very important. And Saturday, actually, for people that are in Kampala, we're planning to do a business proposal workshop, because what I found is that so many of us, we have the idea, but it's the planning part that we sometimes either forget or we neglect. What I've seen is a lot of times, for example, Nehemiah, in his instance, he would want the wall to be rebuilt, and then he would go get the supplies. And we know that's foolish. I see that a lot. People, we want the results, and then we put in the work, but we want to make sure that we don't put what they call the cart before the horse. So we have to be strategic. And so now, help us, God. I hope, God, please continue to speak and let the words resonate, not just on our physical ears, but let's let the words resonate in a deeper, more meaningful place. Help us to just take our time. We invite you into this space for people need a breakthrough. People need to hear from you in different time zones and different spaces. So we pray right now, even as we get into half past the hour, God, I pray that resilience, even a resilient spirit. So even if we think now we've been here together for 30 minutes, right? So think about how much resilience it takes to fulfill your mission for 30 days. Think about the discipline it takes to fulfill your mission or your vision for 30 months. Or God forbid that you dedicate your life to a thing, and think about the resilience that it takes to keep your vision just ahead of you for 30 years. So resilience is a very, very key element. And I think one thing I've learned is that it's the journey that I personally have learned to appreciate. Anytime I feel that I'm being challenged or I'm being hit, when I was younger, there were certain triggers that would make me do things that weren't helping the cause at all. But now I'm able to realize in the more mature space, when challenges come, they only come to make me strong. So the fourth part that I learned today when I was reading about Nehemiah is about resiliency, rising beyond opposition. Uh, because as the Bible tells us, every time I have the desire to do good, evil is always present. So resilience is the fourth thought, the fourth idea that we want to think about here as we think about what Nehemiah did. One of the things I noticed that Nehemiah did all throughout these 13 chapters is that he continuously prayed. He prayed before he went to the king. He prayed once he was in Jerusalem. He prayed as they were getting supplies. He prayed as the wall was being built. He prayed after the wall was built. And so in Nehemiah 4 and 14, this is a key verse that says, remember the Lord who is great and awesome. So let's make that a key point, that no matter what you're dealing with right now, no matter what the obstacle is, remember the Lord. Remember the Lord. Remember that if he would be with you, who could possibly be against you? So Nehemiah's resilience, he says, remember the Lord who is great and awesome. That's a heck of a combination, to be great and awesome. I could imagine that we know there's a situation where somebody could be great, but they're not so awesome. Or maybe someone's awesome in their own way, but they're not great. But as we are on this path and overcoming various obstacles, remember the Lord. He's great and awesome. And he's always there, always listening, no matter where you are. He's always just waiting for you to come to him so that he can soothe your heart. And so as I was reading, I was reminded of Paul the Apostle, who was once Saul of Tarsus. And so Paul the Apostle is credited with writing, I think, 2/3 of the New Testament. And so when you think about that type of vision, that type of outcome, think about what Paul had to deal with, what he had to go through. And so 2 Corinthians sort of outlines some of what Paul had to deal with. And so I'll read it here, but see if you can see yourself in some of what Paul had to deal with. See if you can understand better why you might have to be dealing with certain adversities as it relates to where you're going in life. I know for sure I see it. I think about the memoir that I just recently published, The Roaring 30s, and it details so many hardships, so many crazy things that I never in 1,000 years would have thought I would need to overcome or bear to go through. But now that I'm on the other side of those hindrances that I thought of them at the time, and I've been pruned and I've been made better and I've been healed and I'm now in a different space, I see why I've been prepared. So now I'm unfathomable. There's nothing that can deter my resilience. And so let's look at Paul. I'm going to read on the right-hand side, the New International Version. So this is Paul, of course, again, who wrote most of the New Testament. It says, are they servants of Christ? It says, I have worked much harder, been in prison more frequently. been flogged more severely, and been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus one. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. Verse 26 says, I have been constantly on the move. I have been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews. I have been in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. I have labored and toiled and have often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst. I have often gone without food. I have been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concerns for all the churches. So when we think about resilience, Albert, I think Albert was out there. I think I saw Rena. I think I saw Micah. I think Delilah might be out there somewhere, and other people that are here. I think I might have saw Ravine. And so when we think about what we're dealing with even right now, and we think about where we see ourselves in the future, we have to be reminded that there are certain laws of nature. There are certain laws that govern our existence. And so one of them is you reap what you sow. Another one of them is for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so when we think about Paul and how greatly he's known and the millions and hundreds of millions of lives that he's impacted, and the hundreds of millions of lives that he'll impact that are even yet to be born, it makes sense that he was shipwrecked 3 times, but was challenged to stay the course. It says he was in danger by my fellow Jews. So even his own people, and I know we can relate to that. So we just want to make sure that there's a level of determination and an unwavering faith, because it comes with the territory. And it's not for everybody. It's not. And it's okay. Everyone's not cut out for that. Everybody can't deal with certain skepticisms and adversities when pursuing meaningful goals. And I know for me, for example, I didn't realize the meaningfulness of shift when it first came to me some 12 years ago. I didn't know, but I didn't realize it would take me to different parts of the world. Vietnam, India, Ethiopia, here in Uganda, Kenya. I didn't realize I would go there and I would get to tell people about it. I didn't know the hardships and adversities I would have had to face in pursuing it. Because like I said earlier, God will give you the vision, but he doesn't necessarily show you the plan that will fulfill the vision. Because in our finite thinking, right? If the vision comes from an infinite place, infinite means never ending, always going, there's no stop to it. Our mind as a human being is limited, it's finite. So in our finite thinking, we might say, well, but if I got to do that, it's okay. It's okay. I stay here where I'm at. So, but we have a certain level of respect, and we think about Nehemiah's resiliencies, and then I think about our capacity, not just in me, but the capacity for the people that have understood the shift approach, for the people that have their shift stories. And it's so powerful when I hear people's stories to say how they think it's impacting their lives, and people want to be ambassadors. So there's a certain capacity that's being built even right now that will help us as we endure into the next phase of our growth. And whether you're a part of our community or you've joined tonight just to listen in, it's fine. But I believe that the resilience that Nehemiah showed is something that I know personally I have taken into my day-to-day life. And I would hope that you, and then under the sound of my voice, whatever your vision is, that you would build the capacity to overcome any setback or any criticism. Because how many of you know when people criticize you, it's not you that they don't like. It's always something about them. So don't take anything personal. So let's keep going. Stay there with me. If you have to stretch or get a drink of water or refill your tea, it's fine. Let's just stay together. Let's just stay focused. Let's remain here. If you do have to leave, it's okay. But I hope that, again, my prayer is, God, I hope that anybody that can hear right now, I hope that they don't hear Ethan. I hope that they don't even recall the idea of who Ethan is in this moment, but you hear something that maybe was intended for you from God, because God uses people as vehicles to impact the lives of other people. So let's think about your prayers, think about your heart and what you're looking for with God. Don't be like the man who was drowning and he prayed to God to save him, and a man comes in a boat, and the guy says, no, 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 you go on, God's gonna save me. And the guy is still in the water and is about to drown. Another guy comes in a boat and says, get in, and the man in the water says, no, 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 God is gonna save me, you keep going. And so finally the man drowns and goes to heaven, and he says, God, why didn't you save me? And God tells him that he sent him two boats. So let's be mindful that God uses people. He uses people to fulfill his promises. And so as we go into the fifth part of these lessons from Nehemiah, rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, finally we get to completion, right? The elation of accomplishment. My grandfather once told me that the best thing about a job well done is having it done. The best thing about a job well done is having it done. So the fifth lesson that I learned today in reading the book of Nehemiah was completion. At some point in the future, if you never change your mind, you always get to your intended results. And there's a certain elation that comes with accomplishment. So people that know me personally, just to speak a little bit about myself, people that know me personally here on the continent, you just know me as a worker. You've only seen me in my mission, in my work. But trust and believe, when we get to the point where it's time to celebrate, oh my, as much as you see me work hard, when it's time to celebrate, oh man, just know we work hard and we play hard. So there comes a point in everyone's vision and their journey and their plans when it all comes together and you say, wow, look at this. We've come to completion. But there's another message within completion that's important. And that's that, when you think about, for those of us that have graduated college or you've done just anything that you had to work hard for, as soon as you get to the point where you completed it, the question comes up, well, what are you going to do now? What's next? But first, let's be elated with completion. So in Nehemiah, the eighth book in the 10th verse, he said, the joy of the Lord is my strength. So he was filled with joy. There was so much joy that had overcome Nehemiah based on the hard work he had put in. And he said that is his strength. So as you, and I don't know who all is listening, I'm not seeing the list of anybody that's here or not, but I love to call names when I talk and when I teach, and I'm gonna just say Samuel, maybe Samuel's out there. It's the joy you get when you finally reach the end of a thing. That's what gives you more strength. I know for sure I could not be doing what's happening now if I had not before experienced the joy of the Lord. And so we used to sing a song at church. If anybody here is from the South or you grew up in the South, we used to say, this joy that I have. Now I got to sing and say, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it, the world can take it away. So you gotta harmonize. In my family, I come from a family of singers, and I don't sing. I teach, but in my family, people harmonize. So I was trying to. I hope I got the harmony right. I'm sure if I didn't, one of my aunts is here. They'll tell me. But the point is, it's the joy that you get from fulfilling a vision that gives you strength to carry on. I like to tell people and my students that, as you build strength for enduring your path, you get to use that strength for the next vision, for the next plan. So that's why it's so important that we endure. And we know that the race is not given to the swift nor the strong, but to him or her who endures to the end. And so again, I go to God, I pray that anybody that can hear any of these words, I pray that it goes beyond the surface level. It just goes beyond the idea of being on a call and on your phone or on a computer and hearing some words like you have time and time again. I would hope that it goes further. Let's look at two examples in the Bible where let me check my time. Yeah, we have about give me 10 more minutes and we'll be out of here. Let's look at two examples in the Bible where elation came into play. One happens in the book of Luke, the 15th chapter. It's a story of the prodigal son. The prodigal son is about a young boy who he asked his father, he said, Dad, I'm the man in these streets, give me my inheritance. I'm about to go live it up. I'm gonna go do my thing. I can't really be here at this house. You want me in by 10, I can't bring my little mama over here. Let me go and get my money, Daddy. So, and the prodigal son, the father gives him his inheritance, and the boy goes out, had the time of his life, right? He had a great time, but he squandered it all. So he found himself living amongst the swine. And so the boy said, surely my father's servants live better than I'm living. So let me go back to my father. He just wanted to go work for his father. And so where we pick it up here, the father sees his son in a distance. He sees his son up the way a bit there. And so it says in the book of Luke 15, 11 through 32, it says, but the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattest calf we got and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. And so we look, and so the prodigal son, it says he was dead. He wasn't dead physically, like we might think. He was dead spiritually, like some of us were when we came into this room. But I pray there's some spiritual healing going on. Another example of when people were extremely excited and overjoyed in the Bible was on the day of Pentecost. And so I'll let you read that one on your own, just in lieu of time. But I'll give you an overview of what was happening during this time on the day of Pentecost. So in the Christian faith, people that believe, that say that they're Christians, this is what they're essentially professing. So people that say they're Christians, and based on my understanding, you're saying that you believe that there's a God that created the earth, right? And he's all-knowing. God is everywhere. He's omnipresent. And then you're saying that you believe that God walked the earth in the form of a man. And some people call the man Jesus, Yeshua. People have different names, but with you saying you believe that God walked the earth in the form of a man. And then when you profess the Christian faith, you're saying that through baptism, by water, it's like a rebirth. You're saying that you have accepted what we call the Holy Spirit into your life. And so with that being said, you're saying that let me see what's happening here. When you accept the Holy Spirit, that also is God. So you're literally, when you are professing the Christian faith, you're saying that you believe that God lives inside of you. That's literally what the faith professes. I don't know if all of us understand it that way or live it that way, because God is really whatever your perception of him he is, but we're not going to go into that. So on the day of Pentecost, the Holy Spirit had come upon a group of people, and they were speaking in different tongues. They were very happy, and it was a day of elation. And so you can go and read more about it in the second chapter of Acts, but this is just after the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and we're going to the book of Acts. So another moment of elation. The thing had come to an end, and there was a new thing being done. Okay, and so there's a certain emotional and spiritual significance when you achieve a long desired goal. You finally, whew, you exhale, you finally, oh man, thank you. I'm at a different place. And what happens then is you become elevated. For me, there's so many times throughout the day I feel so much power just from existing. And so there's a certain spiritual significance from when you really reach the end of a long journey. So we have to savor those milestones, which they give us fuel for the celebration. So we want to continue celebrating. Okay, as we come to close out these ideals, I want you all to hear the big finish. So let me get to the last part where we leave legacy. I believe that's the part we get to next, right? Legacy. So that's where we end at after we've looked at vision and we feel the promises. Legacy is leaving a footprint of our impact. Leaving a footprint of our impact. We want to leave a footprint of our impact. And I want to remind you one more time, if you're here, if you would make sure your phone is muted. We want to be able to leave a footprint of our impact. We want the world to know that we existed. We want the world to know that Ethan was here, that Michael was here, that Gravine was here. In order to do that, and because especially in the African American community back home, many times, I don't know who my great grandfather was. I don't know who my great great grandfather was. And some of us here on the continent, maybe you do, maybe you don't. And the reason why is because he wasn't able to leave a legacy. There was no legacy left behind of his existence. And so fulfilling your vision allows you to leave a legacy and lessons for people to follow for years to come. And so Nehemiah's legacy was that he was able to transform the community of the people of Jerusalem. He was able to help them have shelter again and safety from outside forces by rebuilding the walls. He was able to help economically, right? He was able to restore relationships. People worked together for this one common vision. So that's the legacy of Nehemiah. And just from that one vision that he had, and for 52 days, that's how long it took to rebuild the wall. He's now a figure that will live on forever through the Holy Bible, because there's a whole book in the Bible about, all it is about Nehemiah rebuilding the wall. It's just a book simply about him fulfilling his vision. And so that's his legacy. And so when we add a verse to it, 2 Timothy says, I've fought a good fight. I've finished the race. I've kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. And so that's what you might call a clarion, a very clear call to finish our race, to fight the good fight, to finish your race, to keep your business going, to do that thing that you otherwise didn't know you would be able to do, to push ahead just a little bit further, to hold on just a little while longer. Because somebody in your bloodline, some little boy, some little girl will need to know that you existed. So this verse is a clear call to finish that faith, finish that fight, whatever it is. And Nehemiah continued in his giving and being and allowing people to overcome. He continued working for those people that could not work for themselves. Even after the walls were built, it says that the high priest and the government officials were taxing people and causing people to continue to live and perpetuate their poverty. And we see that a lot of times in the developing world, the government and the fat cats, if you would, they continually take. But Nehemiah, 5th chapter in the 12th verse, he says, we will give it back, because he had called, after he heard this was happening, he called all of the more fortunate people together, we'll say, and he told them, he chastised them, how dare you do this type of injustice to people that otherwise cannot help themselves, after we've worked together to restore these walls. And through his leadership, the high priest and the government officials and the people with the big stomachs, they said, we will give it back. And we will not demand anything more from them. We will do as you say. And so a point of this, as we get ready to get out of here, is that, Albert and others that are here, when you fulfill a vision and you carry on to the end of a thing, you then have a certain authority. You now can stand on something. You're taken serious because we know this person is sincere. We've seen this person means business. They have a track record. And so they knew that Nehemiah, when he spoke, they needed to listen. So even though they were government officials, even though they were people with lots of money, Nehemiah was a cupbearer for the king, but they knew even in that role, they needed to listen. So your vision makes way for you to have a certain level of empowerment and to do even more. So let's take just a moment to envision the legacy that you want to leave for generations, whatever that is. So I'm going to pause for 10 seconds and just let you think and reflect on some of what we said. And again, my prayer is that it falls on spiritual ears and open hearts. So let's just take a moment, just think about what your vision may be or your assignment or the plan that's ahead, and then we'll close it out. I hope after we leave this space, you can find more time to be at ease and quiet and continue to go deeper into the spiritual realm so that you can get the answers you need for the questions that you have. So, in conclusion, I say this: we can create something truly inspiring by weaving together vision, focus, strategy, resilience, completion, and our legacy. We can create something truly inspiring, whether that be through your affiliation and working through the things we create at Shift, or you with other avenues that you have in your mind, but we can truly create something that's going to inspire people. People need to be inspired. Look around you. Think about it. Think of you yourself, me. We need inspiration. That's why I put myself out here tonight, because I said, you know what? I know people need inspiration. And so if we can put together the vision that you have, and we can be focused, overcoming distractions, strategize, and work with other people, push through with resilience, and all the way to the end, who knows what your legacy might be. And so we just want to reflect on how Nehemiah's journey resonates with your own. We kind of did that a moment ago, and I told you about Nehemiah. Take time again to whether it be through Nehemiah or some other leader, some other story in the Bible, to go through it and see how these biblical and historical figures may resonate with your own story, where you are in life today. So a few practical steps. I don't want to leave you without something practical. I know you have your own ideas, but just if you're taking notes or if you're in a position to jot anything down, I want to share this. One of my favorite books is called The Four Agreements. And so I want us to make these four agreements as practical steps for embracing these lessons in our daily life and business and in our community. The first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. If anybody has access to the chat, put that in the chat. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. The power of life and death is in the tongue. It's in what we say. So we have to make sure anything we say is speaking life. So the agreement is to be impeccable with your word, even when the ideas and the things of your vision, maybe they're not agreeable to those around you. Be mindful of what you say. The second agreement is to never make assumptions. Don't make assumptions. We live in our heads so much, and we assume this, we assume that. Don't make assumptions. Ask questions if you need to. The third agreement is take nothing personal. As you go out and you pursue some meaningful cause in life, some vision, take nothing personal. Anytime someone opposes you or someone speaks ill of you, or people don't want to see you do well, it's not. Don't take it personal. People are seeing a reflection of themselves. It's not you. I can promise you, whoever can hear my voice, whoever's still out there, don't take anything personal on the path to the completion of your vision of fulfillment. And the fourth agreement I would like us to make as a practical step for embracing these lessons is to always do your best. Always do your best. You owe it to yourself. Don't worry about what it looks like to the outside world, because you know where you're going. So just do your best. That's all God can ask of you. When you think about the parable of the talents, one man got 10 talents, one man got 5 talents, one man got 1 talent. The man with 10 talents did his best. He doubled that and he brought back 20. The man with 5, he did his best and he doubled that and he brought back 10. The man that got 1, he took the safe route and he buried the talents and he brought back 1. And the master told him to be away from me. So let's be impeccable with our word. Don't make assumptions. Take nothing personal. And always do your best. Always do your best. So this is a call to action for you to embark on your transformative journey. If this sounds like it's bigger than life, if it sounds like a big deal, if it sounds like something that's far greater than you imagine you would encounter today, then it is. It is. It is. Because we live in a time period right now where there are wars and rumors of wars. There's fathers against sons, mothers against fathers. There's a lot of signs that say that the world is dark. But I want to remind you, I live in a world that says the world is equally balanced between good and bad. I think if I look, as I see just a number at the top of the screen, I see the number is 8 now. I think earlier it was up to 12 different people in and out. So if there were 15 people that came at any point, I hope that each person, all 15, me included 16, heard something, and we can make action that will tilt the scales for the powers of good, for the forces of good, because the world is equally balanced between good and bad. Your next move will tilt the scale. So as a closing thought, I say this: as Nehemiah's story intertwined with our own, let us emerge as visionaries, pioneers of focus, architects of strategic change, and champions of resilience. The Shift community carries the torch of Nehemiah's legacy, ready to build, celebrate, and leave an indelible footprint of impact in the world. Let that be who we are, wherever you are. So the last thing I'll say, if you enjoyed or if you've been helped, I never could have imagined that I would have so many things that come my way when I started. I didn't even think it was a ministry. I just thought I was here doing I thought I was visiting a place with a great climate, with beautiful people. But every week, someone's in the hospital, someone's business is taking losses, someone needs to register an account, someone is traveling, someone is here, someone is there. And I obviously I don't fulfill all of these needs, but I do build relationships. So I say that to say that now that I've accepted and understand that this is like a ministry, I realize that it takes money to run it. So if you're at all in a position to support anything that has to do with the Shift approach in our work, this is how you can do it. If you're back in the US and you have Cash App, you have Zelle, mobile money, but regardless, I solicit your prayers, not just for me, but for all the people that are part of this community. So we're right at the top of the hour and beyond. So let me pray so that we can leave and I can be mindful of your time. Thank you, God, for your strength, for your vision. Thank you for, I just say thank you, God. That's all I can say is thank you. So we just thank you. Whatever people need that are out there now, I pray that they got it. I pray that they will continue to seek you and know that you're always there. So we thank you. We know that the Lord is our shepherd, we shall not want. He maketh us lie down in green pastures. He leadeth us on the path of righteousness. He restoreth our soul. Our cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives. And we know that's not the whole 23rd Psalms, but we know that that's who God is. So God, I say thank you. Amen. For those of you that have been here the whole time, hope you were blessed. If you came in at different parts, I hope you were blessed. It was been live streamed on our YouTube channel, and it'll be available on our YouTube page. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to end the call. I'm going to rest up and get ready to continue the work. I look forward to hearing from you. If you don't see me on WhatsApp, email is the best way to reach me right now. I've been away from WhatsApp for quite a bit. But I thank you so much for who you are and what you stand for. Let's go out and impose our will on the change elements of this life. Have a great night. Thank you.